1. Which of the following best describes a perceptron in a neural network? A. A unit that combines inputs, applies weights, adds bias, and passes the result through an activation function. B. A function that only normalizes the data before training begins. C. A clustering algorithm used for grouping data points. D. A component that stores the entire dataset in memory. 2. What is the primary purpose of an activation function in a neural network? A. To scale weights after each epoch. To introduce nonlinearity into the network's computations. C. To initialize biases to 0. D. To compute the learning rate dynamically. 3. Which of the following is a commonly used activation function for hidden layers? A. Softmax. E. ReLU. C. Mean squared error. D. Adagrad. 4. The term backpropagation in neural networks refers to A. The process of feeding inputs through the network. E. The algorithm used to adjust weights based on gradients from the output. C. The act of normalizing the input dataset. D. The initialization of parameters before training. 5. In a feed-forward neural network, data flows. A. From output layer to input layer only. B. Randomly across all neurons. C. From input layer through hidden layers to output layer. D. From bias nodes to hidden layers and back. 6. What is the main goal of gradient descent in training neural networks? A. To increase the learning rate over time. B. To find the weights that minimize the loss function. C. To maximize the number of hidden neurons. D. To initialize the optimizer. 7. Overfitting in neural networks occurs when A. The network generalizes well to unseen data. B. The network learns the noise and details of the training set too well. C. The model is under-parameterized. D. The optimizer fails to converge. 8. Dropout is a regularization technique that A. Removes entire layers from the network permanently. B. Temporarily disables random neurons during training to reduce overfitting. C. Adds new neurons during backpropagation. D. Increases the number of training epochs automatically. 9. Which of the following is an advantage of batch normalization? A. It removes the need for activation functions. B. It stabilizes and accelerates training by normalizing layer inputs. C. It always eliminates overfitting without other methods. D. It prevents the vanishing gradient problem by freezing weights. 10. What does the softmax function output in the final layer of a classifier? A. The raw scores of each class. B. A probability distribution over all possible classes. C. The weight values of the last hidden layer. D. The loss value for each data point. 11. Convolutional neural networks, CNNs, are most commonly applied to A. Text preprocessing. B. Image and spatial data analysis. C. Numerical optimization problems. D. Reinforcement learning policy updates. 12. In CNNs, the purpose of pooling layers is to A. Increase the dimensionality of the feature maps. B. Reduce the spatial size and computational load. C. Eliminate the need for convolutional kernels. D. Apply backpropagation more efficiently. 13. Recurrent neural networks, RNNs, are especially suited for A. Static image classification. B. Tasks involving sequential data like text or speech. C. Problems with high-dimensional tabular data. D. Shallow learning tasks. 14. The vanishing gradient problem is most likely to occur in A. Shallow feed-forward networks. B. Very deep networks with certain activation functions. C. Networks using ReLU exclusively. D. Models with small training datasets. 15. The long short-term memory (LSTM) architecture was designed to A. Speed up convolutional operations in CNNs. B. Solve the vanishing gradient issue in RNNs. C. Optimize dropout rates during training. D. Reduce the size of embedding layers. 16. In neural network terminology, epoch refers to A. One pass through a subset of data points. B. A complete pass through the entire training dataset. C. The initialization of weights. D. A single forward pass without backpropagation. 17. What is the function of the loss function in a neural network? A. To update the learning rate during training. B. To measure the difference between predicted and true values. C. To initialize network weights. D. To select the optimizer automatically. 18. Which optimizer uses momentum and adaptive learning rates? A. SGD. B. Atom. C. Linear regression. D. RMS. 19. Which of the following techniques can help prevent overfitting in neural networks? A. Using larger batch sizes only. B. Dropout, early stopping, and data augmentation. C. Increasing the number of neurons indefinitely. D. Reducing the learning rate to 0. 20. A shallow neural network typically has A. Only input and output layers, or a single hidden layer. B. Dozens of hidden layers. C. No activation functions at all. D. A recursive architecture. 21. What is weight initialization important for in training neural networks? A. To guarantee zero loss at the start. B. To help the network converge faster and avoid symmetry problems. C. To set all neurons to identical values. D. To ensure bias remains constant. 22. Which of the following describes transfer learning in neural networks? A. Training multiple models simultaneously on different tasks. B. Adapting a pre-trained model to a new but related task. C. Applying gradient descent to multiple optimizers. D. Removing layers to simplify an existing network. 23. The universal approximation theorem states that A. Any shallow network can memorize data without training. B. A feed-forward network with one hidden layer can approximate any continuous function given enough neurons. C. Only deep networks can approximate nonlinear functions. D. Neural networks cannot approximate continuous functions. 24. Which metric is most appropriate for evaluating a neural network classifier on imbalanced data? A. Accuracy only. B. Precision, recall, and F1 score. C. Mean absolute error. D. Sum of squared errors. 25. In reinforcement learning with neural networks, the term policy network refers to A. A network that approximates the value of states. B. A network that maps states to actions. C. A network for generating datasets. D. A preprocessing module for state normalization. 26. The primary reason for using rectified linear units, ReLU, is A. They always output values between 0 and 1. B. They mitigate vanishing gradients by allowing gradients to flow for positive inputs. C. They normalize inputs during training. D. They reduce the need for dropout. 27. Which of the following is an example of unsupervised learning with neural networks? A. Autoencoders for dimensionality reduction. B. LSTM for text prediction. C. CNN for image classification. DDQN for playing games. 28. Hyperparameter tuning in neural networks typically involves A. Adjusting learned weights after training. B. Selecting optimal values for learning rate, batch size, or number of layers. C. Reducing the size of the test set. D. Computing gradients during inference. 29. In an autoencoder, the bottleneck layer is A. The output layer where reconstruction occurs. B. The smallest layer that forces the network to compress input data. C. A hidden layer with no neurons. D. The bias term of the encoder. 30. Which property distinguishes generative adversarial networks, GANs, from other neural networks? A. They use a pair of networks in a competitive setup, generator and discriminator. They consist of a single network with dropout. C. They always require labeled datasets. D. They use gradient descent with fixed weights. 31. What does the learning rate control in neural network training? A. The number of neurons per layer. E. The size of the steps taken to update weights. C. The size of the input dataset. D. The total number of epochs. 32. Which of the following problems can occur if the learning rate is too high? A. Slow convergence with stable loss. B. Diverging loss or oscillating training process. C. Vanishing gradient issue only. D. Overfitting without any training error. 33. In convolutional layers, the term kernel refers to A. The optimizer used for learning. B. The small matrix of weights used to extract features from input data. C. A batch of training samples. D. A layer used for normalization,